Hi, everybody, and welcome to Module 2. You did a great job making it through our first module, and I really enjoyed getting to know a little bit about each of you. You'll notice from my wrap-up video post that there were some key takeaways that you can reflect on, and then I would also suggest putting together your own list of key takeaways from Module 1. Maybe keep a journal throughout this class and journal through some of the question prompts that you didn't do for our discussions. And I think that'll help you to take a deeper dive into your own critical thinking skills. Metacognition is essential to our critical thinking, so it's also great to reflect as much as possible on who you are and what's important to you and how you might answer some of these questions. So let's take a dive into Module 2 together. Get started by going to the left side and clicking on the Modules button, and then scroll down until you see Module 2. The first place to start here is that you'll see that our topic is reason and emotion, and you'll click on the Module 2 learning pathway. That gives you all the information, as it did in the previous week, about what we will be covering, as well as a list of due dates and assignments that we'll be participating in. So you'll see if you just read through this introduction that in the previous module, we explored the principles of critical thinking and we observed its role in all of the facets of our life. And so this week, we're going to have the opportunity to explore these ideas further in our discussion, a reflection on how emotion influences our behaviors and actions, and what we might want to do to change it or not. We'll be thinking about some cognitive errors, some distortions, and the way that we make judgments. So scroll down just slightly and you'll see there are some required readings. Then there are some module notes to take a look through before you begin to post in the discussion area. You'll notice that there is a discussion called the interplay of reason and emotion. Now, a long time ago, back when I was in college, which was quite a long time ago, often our faculties of reasoning are the ones that are upplayed as seeing superior to our emotional response. So we can take a look at those things in our textbook and in our discussions and determine whether or not we think that's really a sound argument. I would encourage you to keep your mind open about this topic, and let's just see where it takes us. So you'll see also that we're going to begin working on our final project. There's part 1 of the reflective essay, and that'll be due by Sunday. And then you will see our instructions for the Smart Book quiz on Chapter 2, and that is also due on Sunday. Of course, your initial discussion post is due Thursday, as you can see, and then the final posts are due Sunday, your responses to your classmates, and so forth. So go ahead now and scroll down until you see that next button, and it'll take you over to the required readings. You'll notice that we have some module notes, as I mentioned, on Chapter 2 in our textbook. And then there's also some other things to view on cognitive bias and critical thinking. And cognitive bias is just so prevalent in our lives that we could probably find examples of it every day. So I think that you're going to find these videos really interesting, and I can't wait to hear what you think about them. You'll also notice there's an optional TED Talk video, and I just love these TED Talks. They're just so thought-provoking. I highly recommend taking the time out to review it. It's about 18 minutes, and so even if you can't review it all in one chunk, maybe even just 5 minutes a day throughout the week will get you set. So scroll down till you see the next button, and you'll see that these are our notes for reason and emotion. And these are going to highlight some of the main ideas that we're going to be taking a look at, what the role of reason is in critical thinking, the emotion, is it positive or negative? How does it affect critical thinking? And then some 3 approaches to faith and reason. So go ahead and click the next button. And you'll see that we have module 2.3, the interplay of reason and emotion. And so the purpose of this activity is to discuss this interplay of reason and emotion, and think about and discuss one of the following discussion questions. As I mentioned in the beginning, even if you only answer one for discussion, which is what's required, you might want to keep a journal and answer some of the other ones. I think they're very interesting, and I think you'll enjoy exploring all of them in some way. So go ahead and click the next button, and you'll see it is a review of our final project. So the final project, you can read through all of this information, but you'll notice that we're doing it in 4 parts, and it's a cumulative project. It's what's called a scaffolded project, which means that we're doing little sections of it at a time throughout the entire term. You may or may not have come across this approach to curriculum design, but I find that it's really effective because it allows you to put the pieces together of a larger project, and it gives you some time in between to think, reflect, and decide, what changes you might want to make as you go through the process. So one of the goals of the project is to give you the opportunity to master this third and critical stage of cognitive development. And so each of the first 3 projects were going to be reflective essays that contain 5 components. And then the final project will consist of a 10-slide PowerPoint presentation. So this might not all be obvious to you right now, and it may feel a little overwhelming, but we're going to work through it step by step. So it'll just be in little chunks, and I think that you'll find it manageable. If you keep scrolling down, you'll see final project part 1 explained. And it'll tell you what chapters you need to complete this part of the final project, what you need to think about, and then it gives you a list of different resources that you can consult while putting together this final project. You'll notice you'll be composing it in a doc file or a docx. I can also take a PDF, and that it's a Turnitin assignment. So one thing to notice about Turnitin these days is that not only does it evaluate your plagiarism score, which most of you are familiar with, but it also evaluates your AI score. And so if I see an AI score that is over 70%, I have to alert the university. So you'll make sure to just check that AI score. If it comes out higher than you like, send me an email. I'll remove your document and you can give it another try. And I'll be sure to make some comments for you in the feedback box if that is the case, and we can start over. I know sometimes getting a high A score is just the result of using things like Copilot, Grammarly, and so it may not necessarily be intentional. So you'll have the opportunity to redo that. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll see how you'll be evaluated on this project. There's a rubric, as I mentioned before. I'll be using the rubric for all of the assignments in this class. That's how you will be graded. And so you can use that rubric as a checklist for your learning and success. And once you've written up everything contained in this assignment, go back and make sure that all these critical rubric pieces are in there. And then click on the next button at the very bottom after that rubric, and you will see the instructions for our SmartBook quiz on Chapter 2. This is a knowledge check to make sure that you, have kind of internalized the concepts we've been learning so far. It's important to know that you've mastered these ideas before you move on into the next part of our class. So scroll down and hit the next button. And that brings you to our Chapter 2 on reason and emotion. Now, I like to read through the chapter before I do anything at all in a class. I know it's listed here at the bottom of the module, But go ahead and jump in and begin reading that if you haven't already. And I think that you'll find that it's really exciting and informative. And I hope you have a great week. I look forward to our discussions.